Happy New Year's to everyone out there in podcast land. It is time for the first official episode of 2025 for Sports Frenzy 2.0. I am your host, the Maestro Kevin Crane, your Uncle Dave the Conquistador, Dave Height. One more week off for him, and then he will return for at least a couple episodes before he takes another day off for his birthday. It just happens to be the way the calendar is falling here at the end of 2024 and the beginning of 2025. But fear not. You get me in all of my glory, my cursing, my ranting, my raving. And believe me, I have got a lot for you this week. Now, we are taping this. Now, it's technically episode 1 for 2025, but we are taping this in the afternoon of December 31st. So keep that in mind, keep that in context. As we go through our picks and our recaps, I will let you know where we stand right now with the bowl games going on today on the 31st. Now, we did pick these games last week. If you want to go listen to that podcast episode, please do so. Otherwise, jump on the Facebook page and you can see our picks posted last week for the games today. What we're going to cover here when we get to college football, and it's going to be a quick turnaround again because of the way the calendar is falling. This will post really early. Wednesday morning, January 1st, a day earlier than normal for Sports Frenzy. The reason why? So we can get you these picks. Hopefully I will be able to get them posted right before kickoff of the first bowl games on January 1st to keep our integrity intact. It hasn't been easy, believe me. I couldn't get the picks out and posted to Facebook last week in time. I think I got them out there halfway through the Chiefs-Steelers game on Christmas Day. Yeah, believe it or not, I do have some semblance of a life and had things going on where I couldn't quite drop everything for a podcast that makes me no money. So, ergo and therefore, deal with it. But we start off, as always, with the NFL here on Sports Frenzy 2.0. Now, as I mentioned, things have been a little bit off kilter over the last week or two. We discussed last week on Christmas. We recorded on Christmas night. So we were able to recap the first two games from last week's slate. The aforementioned Chiefs-Steelers and the Ravens-Texans. So we're not going to dig into those games, but I will note a couple things that are tied in to those games before we move on to what happens Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Now, first up, I failed to mention, my bad, among all the different implications and things that were involved in the two games on Christmas Day, congratulations to Lamar Jackson as he passed Michael Vick 6,110 rushing yards. Now the number one quarterback all time in the NFL in terms of rushing. Now we can get into the arguments and the debates about is Lamar Jackson the MVP? And it's difficult. It's really difficult. We're going to talk about Saquon Barkley here in a few minutes. Josh Allen, of course, having a tremendous year. I guess what this all boils down to, if you're a voter, is do you want to spread the award out? Do you want to give it to somebody other than a quarterback? Do you want to be a racist like ESPN? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that out loud. Although I did hear recently they had 7 panelists on a particular show last week discussing who should be MVP, and it was unanimous that it should be Lamar Jackson, yet every panel member was African American. Didn't we go through this with the NBA within the last year or two, where we had a certain racist NBA panel member slash expert, Kendrick Perkins, basically saying voters should not give Nikola Jokic another MVP because he's white. You need to give it to Joel Embiid because he was African American. I hate this shit in the media. I hate it. And I hate ESPN for perpetrating this. Personally, I would love to see Saquon Barkley win it, because I think it would send a statement that, number one, the bullshit we put up with a couple years ago, where everybody said, oh, the running backs are devalued, they're not important, they're not getting paid enough. Economics aside, running backs are valuable. They always have been valuable, and they always will be valuable. So I would kind of like a statement to be made on behalf of running backs vis-a-vis Saquon Barkley. We might as well talk about him right now. So we won't wait any longer. We'll keep this MVP conversation going for another minute or two. So Saquon Barkley, Eagles win big this past Sunday. Clinch the NFC East, even with Kenny Pickett at quarterback. And by the way, shame on everybody out there in the media giving a hard time to Kenny Pickett for that one goofy looking play. If you actually watched the video, which obviously none of you fucknuts did, he was hit on the wrist when he was going back to throw the ball. That's why he pulled it. He was trying to kind of pull it in, and it didn't quite work, and it just looked like a very bizarre. He held onto the ball and basically threw the ball and his body into the ground. Oh, look at the stupid Kenny Pickett. He got hit on the wrist when he was in his follow-through. You idiots. So let's not degrade Kenny Pickett, who's done a great job stepping in for a concussed Jalen Hurts. Let's not degrade and debase him based on this one weird-looking play, which in the end really wasn't anything that was his fault. But of course, reactionary morons in the media can't wait to pick on a backup quarterback in the National Football League. So Saquon Barkley in that game crosses the 2,000-yard threshold for rushing. Only a handful of other running backs have done this. It's a very select, very elite company. He now has 2,005 rushing yards with one game to go. He needs 101 yards. Yes, we know, extra game. It will taint the record. We get it. But he needs 101 yards to break Eric Dickerson's record. Most rushing yards in a season in NFL history. But the Eagles, like I said, have locked up the NFC East. They are pretty much set in stone in terms of where they're going to be seated for the playoffs in the NFC. So what do you do if you're Nick Sirianni? Do you play Saquon Barkley? Do you sit him? We most likely see Jalen Hurts sit one more week. So you'll get another week of being able to make fun of Kenny Pickett, even though he doesn't deserve it. And yes, I believe there's an agenda there as well. Look back to what I just said a couple minutes ago. And then how much does Josh Allen play for the Bills? They have pretty much locked up. They've definitely locked up the AFC East, but they have locked up the number 2 seed as well. So they can't move up or down. They don't have a bye week coming up, so wouldn't logic say that maybe you should rest Josh Allen? But he's in the midst of a playoff run. Or an MVP run, I'm sorry. The playoff run part of it for him is done and over. They're in. They're locked in. But he's in the middle of an MVP race, whereas Lamar Jackson, this is where I was going with he still has to on Saturday, early Saturday game. There are 2 games coming up this Saturday. Early Saturday game, plays the Browns. You would think, okay, what's the big deal? Why is Lamar Jackson going to play? They need to win this game. Because there is still an outside shot based on what happens in the second game on Saturday between the Bengals and the Steelers. The Ravens, if they stumble, for some bizarre reason, if they stumble against the Browns and lose, that motivates the Steelers in that second game. Because the Steelers could beat the Bengals, and then all of a sudden, the Steelers could win the AFC North. Now, if the Ravens win the early game against the Browns, then the Steelers still have a little bit to play for, but not nearly as much. Then it's all about seeding. Are they going to be the 5th seed or the 6th seed, depending on what the Chargers do on Sunday and what the Steelers do on Saturday? I know, this is your playoff scenario, massive, utter fucking chaos. So how much does Lamar Jackson play this weekend? How much does Josh Allen play this weekend? Does Saquon Barkley play this weekend? Now, when it comes to the playoffs, all 3 teams fairly equal. All 3 look like they're going to be division winners. So it's a very interesting, tough MVP race. Now, me personally, I'm stuck. I am really stuck. Like I said, I would give it to Saquon Barkley, especially if he breaks the record. Then I think it should be a lock. It won't be, but it should be. I think Lamar Jackson is having his best year as a NFL quarterback. I don't know if I could say that about Josh Allen, but Josh Allen is having a tremendous year as well. Now, Lamar Jackson has added an added piece to the puzzle now where he has a running game behind him with Derrick Henry that makes things easier for him. So again, I'm stuck. I really am. If Saquon Barkley doesn't set the rushing record, I would actually lean towards Lamar Jackson. But here's my problem. And I've had this problem in the past, so don't say I'm a racist, because I had this problem in the past with Aaron Rodgers as well. I don't think a lot of these players deserve to amass all the MVP trophies they get, especially when they don't really win. Aaron Rodgers has got, 4 MVPs, I believe? And we're looking at the 3rd for Lamar Jackson? Lamar Jackson's never been to a Super Bowl. Could go this year. We don't know. Aaron Rodgers had 1 year where he won the Super Bowl. Otherwise, he is notorious for his teams doing great in the regular season, not counting the Jets, of course, and then flaming out pathetically in the postseason. But it's a regular season award. It's not a postseason award. There's part of the problem. I think the postseason should be included in all awards. NBA, MLB, NFL, NHL. I think the award should include the entirety, regular season and postseason. But when you look at how many MVPs Patrick Mahomes, let's say, Patrick Mahomes hasn't won 4 MVPs. Yet I'm telling you right now, he's a better quarterback than Aaron Rodgers ever was. I don't care what the numbers say. He's a better leader. He's a better teammate. He's a winner. Aaron Rodgers is a loser, except for 1 year. And I don't want to go that far down that road with Lamar Jackson yet, but Lamar Jackson needs to start winning playoff games and get to a Super Bowl. Because the notion that he could be a 3-time MVP already in his career and never sniff a Super Bowl sounds completely wrong to me. That's why I don't have a problem with any of these 3 players winning the award. And again, for me, it boils down to Barkley setting the record. I'm not advocating that he plays. God knows if he got hurt in week 18, disaster for the league, for Nick Sirianni, for the Eagles. But if he doesn't set that record, Lamar Jackson's numbers to me are better. And I'm advocating for him despite the fact that I don't think he's that good. When I say that good, I'm saying he's not worthy of being a 3-time MVP already in his career. He's not that good. I'm not talking about this season. I'm talking about career-wise. There's something wrong and something screwed up with the voting. Part of, again, is let's not just vote for quarterbacks. How about that? And let's not go into the season with a predetermined notion of who the MVP is going to be. I mean, look at Sam Darnold. Look at Jared Goff. Even look at my man Baker Mayfield. To me, those guys are all MVP worthy as well. But we're obsessed with Lamar Jackson for some reason. And I don't know why. Because so far, he's not a winner. Yes, in the regular season he is, not in the playoffs. All right, so we shall see what happens down the road with the MVP award. The rest of the games from this fractured NFL Week 17. Saturday, a tremendous game. Went to overtime. The Denver Broncos lose to the Cincinnati Bengals 30-24. The Bengals desperately needed that win to stay alive, move to 8-8. Broncos dropped to 9-7. Now, if they had won, they would have clinched the 7th seed at least in the final playoff spot in the AFC. But now things become more interesting in the AFC for that last wild card spot. Broncos play the Chiefs, who will be resting everybody, you would assume. The Dolphins at 8-8 are still alive. And then the Bengals at 8-8. The Colts, we'll get to them in a minute, choked away their shot at being involved in this. But Joe Burrow, once again, with a tremendous game. T. Higgins, wow. What a game for him. 3 touchdown catches, and he's going to be probably a free agent. It's going to be very, very wild to see the bidding for T. Higgins in this offseason. Because you know the cheap-ass Bengals aren't going to keep him. They've got to pay Jamar Chase. There's no way they're paying both of them after they already paid Joe Burrow. Plus, they've got to push some money into their defense if they have any hopes in the future of avoiding these slow starts that have been killing them every season, pretty much since they've had Joe Burrow. And then in a kind of an ugly game, Saturday night, this of course was December the 28th, the Rams beat the Cardinals 13-9 at SoFi Stadium. And then the next day, Sunday the 29th, based on what happened in the night game, due to a bizarre, weird tiebreaker scenario, the Rams win the NFC West. What did happen on Sunday the 29th? Well, we talked about the Colts. Some of these games we picked, some we didn't. I will try to cover them all as best I can. The Giants, God bless the Giants. God bless Drew Lock. Drew Lock has the game of his life, beating the Colts at MetLife Stadium, knocking the Colts out of playoff contention, and knocking the Giants out of the number 1 slot in the 2025 draft. But see, to me, I love it. I love it. The team played hard for Drew Lock. They played hard for Brian Daboll. And the Colts, I don't like the way the Colts are constructed. I just don't. I don't know what to make of Steichen as a head coach. How much more patience are you going to show with Anthony Richardson? Outside of Jonathan Taylor, really, what have you got on this team? Obviously, you need help on the defensive side because they let Drew Lock shred them. I think Jim Irsay has got to look at this very carefully in the offseason. And I wouldn't be shocked. I don't think it'll happen, but I wouldn't be shocked if Shane Steichen's fired. 2 seasons, very little progress. 2 seasons of frustrating mediocrity in a division that should be the easiest in the NFL to win, based on the fact you've got Tennessee and Jacksonville in there, which should be 4 guaranteed wins a year for the Colts. Then, of course, we had big showdown in the best division. We go from the worst division in the NFL to the best. Big showdown in the NFC North. Packers go up to Minnesota to play the Vikings. I bought into the hype. I'll admit it. Packers have been looking good the past few weeks. And I've always been concerned and worried about Sam Darnold. I just thought, there's no way this team, 2 losses, and we're almost done with the regular season. Come on, there's no way the Vikings are this good. Well, you know what, kids? They are. They are. I am a believer now in the Vikings. A couple weeks back, I told your Uncle Dave, I said on this podcast, don't be surprised if by the time the playoffs roll around, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are the third best team in the NFC. I have to revise it now because I thought the Vikings were at some point going to stumble, and they haven't. So now I dropped the Bucks down to 4. Behind the Lions, Vikings, and Eagles. But the Vikings, now the score is not indicative. If you watch this game, you know exactly what I'm talking about. This score is not indicative of the game. Vikings won 27-25, but the Packers score a lot of points. Late garbage time, the Vikings dominated this game. Sam Darnold dominated this game. And now I think the Packers have to start questioning. I mean, they're stuck with him because they just paid him. How good really is Jordan Love? I don't know. I don't know. And I still think we've got to look at him as a second-year quarterback. You gotta forget that he sat on the bench behind Aaron Rodgers for years. He's basically finishing up his second year. So you got to take that into account. So I think you got to give him room to grow for at least one more year. Now, if they don't get better in 2025 in terms of more productive passing game, more efficient passing game, avoiding the injuries, I still think there's hope for Jordan Love. But now this sets up a very interesting situation for the Vikings. What do you do in 2025 at quarterback? How can you let Sam Darnold walk? You're going to have to pay him. And a lot of people, and I agree completely, say maybe you offer him a Baker Mayfield type deal, like what Baker got with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 3 years, 110 million. Definitely you're not giving him 60. And I don't think I would be so trusting that I would give him a 5 or 6 year deal. But I would take the known quantity over the unknown. I would put J.J. McCarthy on the market for a second round pick. Again, something a lot of people have already been putting out there and speculating. See who bites. There's only 2 really, really good quarterbacks coming out in this draft. And you're going to have at least 5 or 6 teams, bare minimum, that are going to need a quarterback in 2025. Or at least, like if you're the Jets and you keep Aaron Rodgers, you got to have somebody behind him because there's no way you're going forward with him in 2026. So maybe a place like the Jets would be an interesting landing spot for J.J. McCarthy. Right now, the Patriots hold all the cards in the draft, by the way. The New England Patriots. Again, we've got 1 week of football left. 1 weekend. But the Patriots have the number 1 pick right now. They just drafted Drake May, so they are going to be able to do one of 2 things. They're going to be able to draft Travis Hunter, Or if they're not sold on Travis Hunter, they are going to be able to trade that pick for a bounty, a la what the Bears did a few years ago with Carolina. Now, of course, have to cover our teams. We're not done yet with Week 17, but going all the way back to Thursday, before I forget, and believe me, I wish I could forget, the Chicago Bears lost their 10th straight game in an awful, pathetic effort at home to close out their home schedule, losing to Seattle 6-3. God, what an ugly game. 3 hours of my life I'll never get back. And the Bears are 4-12 now. In familiar territory, yes, once again, in the top 10 in the upcoming draft. Just embarrassing. Embarrassing. This organization from the top down is rotten. And I swear to God, if they destroy Caleb Williams like they did Mitch Trubisky and Justin Fields and Rex Grossman, now I'm not saying they were great picks, but once you commit to them, you better develop them. And they have never, ever shown the ability to develop a quarterback. And it's something wrong with the ownership group. It's obvious. It's obvious in almost every team in Chicago. The White Sox, the Cubs, the Bulls, and the Bears. I'll let Dave speak on the Blackhawks. The Blackhawks, last time I checked, did get 3 Stanley Cups here in this decade. Or century, sorry. In this century. I don't think they got them all in the last 10 years. They did get them all here within the last 25 years. The Dolphins. I mentioned that the Dolphins are still alive in the playoff hunt. Dave's Dolphins, his backup team. Yes, you are allowed to have a backup team. There are rules and principalities and things, regulations involved. I'm not going to get into them right now, but if you qualify, you can have a second team to root for. And we both do. So Dave's Miami Dolphins are now 8-8 after they beat the lowly, awful, terrible Cleveland Browns 20-3. And that's with Tyler Huntley playing quarterback. Tua again out. Tua with a hip issue. And there's no guarantee he's going to play here in a Week 18 in a must-win game. But they took care of business, even again, if it was against a terrible, awful Browns team. They did what they had to do. And then, of course, finally, real quick, once again, my Buccaneers, now the 4th best team, in my humble opinion, in the NFC, took care of business, smashed the Panthers, who, as of late, have not been an easy out. 48-14, made a statement. Baker Mayfield, 5 touchdown passes. Now, as it stands with 1 week left in the regular season, Baker Mayfield, 3rd in the NFL in passing yards, tied for 2nd in the NFL in touchdown passes. Sounds like an MVP caliber year to me. Now, the Sunday night game, very important, massively important game, and I watched every minute of this. I did not get a big chance. Very few games here in the upper Midwest for the Washington Commanders on TV. So I needed to see Jaden Daniels, and of course, wanted to see Michael Penix Jr. for the Atlanta Falcons. And I was not disappointed. An overtime battle between these two rookie quarterbacks. Amazing to me that they're rookie quarterbacks. Now, of course, Jaden Daniels looks more polished. He's had almost an entire season, and he looks special. He looks great. Michael Penix, it's his second game, and he still was able to keep the Falcons in it and get them to overtime. But ultimately, Jaden Daniels, just too much, just too talented. Commanders win in Washington, 30-24 in overtime, which of course was awesome for my Buccaneers because that gave them back total control of the NFC South. So now the Falcons need the Bucs to lose to the Saints this coming weekend, and then they have to win in order to get into the playoffs as the NFC South champion. I would simply say, Buccaneers, come on, take care of business against the lowly Saints, will you? You're probably not going to have Derek Carr. Probably not going to have Alvin Kamara. You can do this. You guys can take care of this. I do believe it's in Tampa as well. And then Monday night, just last night, again, as we're taping on the 31st, this will drop early morning, New Year's Day, 2025. Wild back and forth pinball type game last night, Monday the 30th, between the Lions and the 49ers. Really neither team with a lot to play for. 49ers out coming into the game at 6-9. Lions with 2 losses could lose a third. It wouldn't matter based on the fact they're going to have to go head-to-head this coming Sunday night with the Vikings anyway. But Dan Campbell played all his starters. 49ers did as well. Now, Brock Purdy got injured late in this game. They're saying it's not a serious elbow injury like it was the last time around, but it was an elbow issue. And there were shots of John Lynch up in the booth, the press box, sitting there basically going, "Oh, what are you doing to me? Why are you playing Brock? We have nothing to play for." So now, Kyle Shanahan will not have Brock Purdy for Week 18. But again, 49ers now at 6-10 are out as the Lions did win 40-34 at Levi's Stadium in Santa Clara, California. Now, in terms of games, that's our wrap-up. We're done, but let's talk about a couple other little issues before we move on to the college game. Great story. Let's make this man my Clint Eastwood badass of the week. And that would be one Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy Bridgewater had a checkered NFL career, a lot of injuries, And if you ever watched him play, you could tell his body just didn't seem right for the NFL. Didn't have enough muscle mass. Still, obviously, great football mind. As a quarterback, you've got to have that type of intelligence and know-how. So Teddy Bridgewater retired so he could go coach his high school alma mater down in Florida. Well, guess what, kids? Just a few short weeks ago, maybe a month, okay? Teddy Bridgewater coached that team to the Florida 3A high school championship. And then what does he do? That would be badass enough. But then what does he do? He unretires and now has signed on with the Detroit Lions. Basically, I think as their third quarterback. So now he could go from coaching his alma mater high school team to a title within the same year, could possibly win a Super Bowl ring. How about that? That is badass. Congratulations to Teddy Bridgewater. Now, we've already mentioned some injuries, and of course, at the end of the year, you can't get too nutsy cuckoo crazy about this stuff because you're not going to risk superstars' careers to play in meaningless games. So we've seen here in the last week, CeeDee Lamb, wide receiver for the Cowboys, shut down for the rest of the year. He's got a shoulder issue. And of course, we're forced to watch the Cowboys almost every week. So if you've seen it throughout the year, he's been playing with this shoulder issue. I think it's an AC sprain. Every time he gets tackled and lands on that shoulder, you can see the pain he's in. So I give him credit for gutting it out as best as he could, especially without Dak Prescott. He could have mailed it in when his starting quarterback went down. But CeeDee Lamb done for the year. Also done for the year now, Kenneth Walker III, starting running back for the Seahawks. He's got an ankle issue. He went on IR. Now, luckily for them, Zach Charbonnet is a more than capable backup, but now it doesn't matter either way as the Seahawks are eliminated. Chuba Hubbard. And this was a godsend. I still think the Buccaneers would have won, but this was a godsend for the Buccaneers, not having to deal with Chuba Hubbard, one of the great stories of the year at running back. But he will sit out the final 2 games of the year for Carolina with a calf strain. Then, of course, we talked about the quarterbacks. We talked about Tua and his hip, Brock Purdy and his elbow, and then Anthony Richardson with a combination of a foot issue and a back issue. Then we have good news. I just ripped on the Browns a few minutes ago. Good news for the Browns. Maybe, possibly, kind of, sort of. Deshaun Watson restructured his contract. Now, they still owe him 2 years of guaranteed money. But now, in this restructuring deal, they are able to stretch out some of that money. some of the guaranteed money, the cap hit money, because the cap hit money is actually the final 2 years on this deal is almost $80 million per year. So it's obviously for cap reasons, they backloaded it, which was a huge mistake. So now what they've had to do is they had 2 void years on it, and now they've tacked on 2 more. So what does that mean? 4 void years? That means they can stretch out the cap hit 4 years beyond the end of the contract. It still stinks. You're still going to be paying him, but it frees up more money and gives you an easier out. Probably after 2025, Cleveland should be able to get out from under Deshaun Watson without absolutely obliterating their cap and any chance they would have to compete. And Cleveland, of course, becomes an interesting player for one of these 2 top quarterbacks, Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. I pray for both of them that they don't go to Cleveland. But again, in very rare instances, most of the times you're going to shitty teams. That's why they have the high draft pick. Caleb Williams, look at what he's going through right now. Drake May, they're going to have the number 1 pick again this year. Now, in some cases, Jaden Daniels just got into the right situation at the right time. Solid, competent leadership, solid, competent head coach coming in. I don't know about Cleveland in that respect. I like Kevin Stefanski a lot, but the rest of that organization is like the Bears. It's just poison. They're just incompetent and stupid beyond belief. Now, is Tennessee any better? Are the Raiders any better? Jacksonville's not going to be in play for a quarterback. I'm just thinking of the teams with the worst records. The Giants, a little bit better maybe. I think Sanders or Ward would welcome a chance to play for New York. But, again, they're an awful team. So this is what you get when you're a top-level college prospect. Most of the time, you're going to get stuck going to a terrible situation. And now it looks like what you've got to hope for is you've got to hope for a Sam Darnold or a Baker Mayfield situation. If you don't get lucky like Jaden Daniels. And you get stuck in a terrible situation for your first 3 or 4 years. You have got to just work through it, go from team to team until you get to the right situation. There's a great photograph, by the way. A few years ago, the Carolina Panthers had both Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield on their roster. I am not shitting you. I believe this was the year before they drafted Bryce Young. And you're thinking, what's going on here? How did you guys not see the potential that Tampa did, that Minnesota did? Sometimes you have to get to your 4th team. Your 4th team. Okay? Before it works. You have to be patient. And I hope, for Justin Fields' sake, it happens for him. But a lot of these young quarterbacks, Caleb Williams, I'm looking at you. because I have no faith in the Bears whatsoever. Don't get don't get so discouraged about the game. Look at those guys and say, it might take till I'm 26, 27 years old, but I have the skill and I have the ability. I get the right coach, the right structure. I will be a top flight quarterback. Unfortunately for you and me and all Bears fans, it probably won't be in Chicago. All right, real quick, our picks for Week 18. Only got a couple games here because most of these games are bad matchups and don't matter in the grand scheme of things. But there are 4 games. Well, when I set this up, I had to get this out to the group early before Sunday's football game. So there is one clunker in there, kind of, sort of. But 4 games. Now on Saturday, January the 4th, we talked about this game a little bit. The Bengals at the Steelers. Bengals will need this game to stay alive and hope that the Dolphins and the Broncos stumble on Sunday. Steelers, depending on what happens earlier in the day with the Ravens and the Browns, you have to assume the Ravens win that game. Do the Steelers play the starters? Do they play hard? They might, because of the fact that if they were to lose another spot in the seeding, if they retain the 5 spot, they go play the Houston Texans. That's a winnable game. The 5 spot in the AFC is where you want to be. But the Bengals want to win this game as well. So this could be the best game of the weekend outside of the Lions-Vikings. I will still go with the Bengals. I will take Joe Burrow. I will take Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. I just don't know how much I trust Russell Wilson, even with the mediocrity on the other side of the ball, the Bengals defense. I will still take Cincinnati and the red-hot Joe Burrow and that offense. Now, key factor here for this game. Young stud running back Chase Brown might not play. But this is why they made the deal earlier in the year with the Bears and picked up Khalil Herbert. Now that's looking like a brilliant move. And I'm telling you, Khalil Herbert can handle this. So I'm not as worried as I would have been otherwise. But Chase Brown might be out for the Bengals. Khalil Herbert would have to take over the bulk of the work in the backfield for Cincinnati. But of our panelists, they knew we had to get this done early. So 7 of our 8 panelists have their picks in here on Tuesday, January the 31st. I'm taking the Bengals as well as Dave. Your Uncle Dave is with me. So are Doug and Aaron. Steelers for Sam, Bill, and Nick. So pretty close there, 4-3 out of the 7 picks we have in right now. Of course, as I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, right before kickoff of the bowl games on New Year's Day, check out the Facebook page. We will have all of our picks, college and pro, posted for you. Now, Sunday, Chiefs at Broncos. Kansas City at Denver. Chiefs don't have anything to play for. But do they want to keep the Bengals out? The dangerous Cincinnati Bengals. Does Carson Wentz have a Drew Lock game in him? How good is the Denver Broncos defense? It has looked pretty bad the last couple weeks after being stellar all the way through to mid-December. Does Bo Nix hit the rookie wall? Again, keep in mind, Broncos win, they're in. Broncos lose, Dolphins win, Dolphins in. Broncos lose, Dolphins lose, Bengals win, Bengals in. All three lose, Broncos in. I think the Chiefs are going to take it easy. This team has played a lot of close football all year, played a lot of games where they have had to go full bore, full effort, 60 minutes. I don't think the rust factor is going to enter into Andy Reid's mind. Yes, they will have a lot of time off as a number one seed if they don't play their starters here in Week 18, but I don't think for this team that's an issue. Been there, done that. I think the Broncos take care of business. They win at home. Dave agrees with me. So does Nick, and so does Aaron. Chiefs for Sam, Bill, and Doug. So again, our panelists almost split on the results of this game as well. Here's the one stinker that I was telling you about. Up until the conclusion of the Sunday night game, this was still up in the air. And that is the NFC West title. Now the Rams got it, clinched it, when the Commanders won late Sunday night. I'd already sent the picks out. So we're picking Seahawks at the Rams. Now, what's interesting here is that the Rams still have something to play for. If seeding matters, the Rams are playing for the 3rd seed or the 4th seed. Now, this is assuming the Tampa Bay Buccaneers beat the Saints. If Tampa Bay beats the Saints and the Rams would lose to Seattle, the Bucs slide up to the number 3 seed. The Rams drop to number 4. Why is that important? Because keep in mind who the number 5 seed is going to be. The 5 seed will play the 4 seed. You don't want to be the 4 seed, because that's going to be either the Lions or the Vikings. So you want to do your best to get that 3rd seed, where you will play either Washington or Green Bay. That's why I think the Rams will play to win this game at home at SoFi. Everybody agrees out of the 7 picks we have in, except the Big Blue W, Bill Lazowski, taking the Seattle Seahawks. And then finally, the NFL got what it wanted. An epic primetime Sunday night game in the final weekend of the regular season. The Vikings at the Lions for not only the NFC North title, but the number 1 seed overall and a bye in the NFC. Everything is telling me to take the Lions. Everything is telling me to take the Lions except one little teeny tiny part of my brain. My heart says Lions. Most of my brain says Lions. They're reckless. They're crazy. They'll do what it takes to win. But after seeing what I saw from the Vikings against the Packers, and what I have seen from the Vikings now the entire regular season, especially now the defense. The Lions do not have a defense. Even this past game yesterday, this past Monday night against the 49ers, they let up 34 points to a team that really was only playing for pride. The Lions defense is decimated by injuries. And here's the big difference. The Vikings defense will put up a resistance against that Lions offense, as great as it is. As great as it is. I am telling you, that little teeny tiny part of my brain is what I'm going with. Vikings defense keeps the Lions offense in check. Vikings put up enough points to pull off the upset, take the NFC North, take the number 1 seed away from the depleted Detroit Lions. Nick and I are the only ones on the panel. Nick and I go with the Vikings. Dave, Sam, Bill, Doug, and Aaron go with the Detroit Lions. So there you go, kids. You got an hour of NFL football talk. Now buckle in, strap yourselves in for about half an hour of college football talk as we start to really get into the bowl games and, of course, the next round of the college football playoff. All right, so before we move on to the college game, and there's a lot to talk about there, couple things. Number one, I did not forget about the announcement about the Hall of Fame finalists for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I've got to save that for next week, so your Uncle Dave and I can debate this. That's one thing where it's not going to be fun for me to do it alone. I need some feedback. I need some back and forth. So I'm going to save that for next week. So remember that. You don't want to miss that next week. Also, you've obviously found us somewhere. Don't forget, there are multiple podcast platforms out there where you can find us. Sports Frenzy 2.0, including the world famous Weekend Edition. We're available on Spotify, Good Pods, Pocket Casts, Apple, Overcast, Castbox, Amazon Music, Audible, and iHeartRadio. Then, of course, do not forget to check out the Facebook page. I just mentioned it here recently. All of our panelists' picks for New Year's Day bowl games all the way through the final weekend of the NFL season. They will be posted right before kickoff on January the 1st of the first bowl game. All right, college football. College football. Now, this was another topic that I was going to save to debate with the Conquistador, but it's probably not going to be all that timely by the time next Wednesday rolls around. So, this would involve my team, the Miami Hurricanes. Okay? As we look back at the past week's bowl games. Of course, Miami was relegated. Now, the thing is, it's a great matchup against Iowa State. So it wasn't like it was a cupcake game here we're talking about. But the controversy around the Miami Hurricanes program never seems to go away. That's its appeal, and that's its burden and anchor. Now, I think Mario Cristobal has got one more year to prove it. Otherwise, I think they're going to fire his ass, because I know for a fact that Hurricanes athletic department, they don't put up with this. And the higher ups, the boosters, they don't put up with this. You can't do this. It doesn't matter if it's Mark Richt or any of the other coaches that have come before, all the way back to Larry Coker. We expect excellence, competence, and we're just not getting it with this latest line of head coaches. And this was the year Mario Cristobal should have gotten this team easily into a 12-team playoff, and he failed. Now, so that leads us to the first point about the Miami Hurricanes, who lost to number 18 Iowa State in the Pop-Tarts Bowl, 42-41, dropping them to 10-3 for the year. And I don't know if they'll end up in the top 25 at the end of the year or not. I don't care. I really don't at this point. And this is where I was having conflict. I was in a text battle with your Uncle Dave. Because it's the Pop-Tarts Bowl. Okay? It is not a college football playoff game. And I could have done research, and I could have pulled a bunch of names off the internet, star players. I know Christian McCaffrey comes to mind. I know he didn't play for Stanford in their bowl game before he turned pro. And nobody, even for this game, nobody seems to be ripping into Xavier Restrepo for not playing. The all-time greatest receiver statistically in Miami Hurricanes history. Don't hear a mention about that. You don't hear anybody talking about that. Now, circling back to what I said about Mario Cristobal before we get to the big elephant in the room. Mario Cristobal, and yes, Notre Dame fans, will get to you guys next week when we talk about the results of the Notre Dame-Georgia game. Trust me, next week will be all Notre Dame. Right now, this week, all Miami. Now, Mario Cristobal did the right thing after the train wreck of a season the defense had for the Hurricanes. He fired defensive coordinator Lance Guidry. But my question is, didn't you see this as the head coach? Couldn't you tell that something was wrong with the defense? I mean, this was one of the worst defenses I have seen from a Miami Hurricanes team since I started following them 40 years ago. Okay? Now, let's get on to the big controversy. Cam Ward. And I will still say it. I don't even think it's close. All apologies to Bernie Kosar and Jim Kelly and Vinny Testaverde. Even Ken Dorsey and Steve Walsh, who I love both of them. Cam Ward, greatest quarterback in Miami Hurricanes history. I know, 1 year only, but how can you argue with what he did? He is the greatest quarterback in Miami Hurricanes football history. So what did he do that pissed everybody off? Keep in mind again, Xavier Restrepo didn't play in the Pop-Tarts Bowl. From what I can tell, he wasn't injured. He's saving himself for the NFL draft. But nobody's ripping into him. But because Cam Ward played in the Pop-Tarts Bowl, but only played one half, he's evil now. He's the devil. Cam Ward's a piece of crap because he only played one half of the Pop-Tarts Bowl in anticipation of being one of the top 5 picks in the NFL draft in 2025. What is wrong with that? What is wrong with you people? And I'm usually the get off my lawn old grumpy man. And I'm sounding like the sane young voice of reason here. Albeit, my voice sounds like I'm 90 years old again. God, I can't shake this. Anyway, it's husky. It's kind of sexy, right? Sexy husky voice. Huh, yeah. That's what I want to be, Kathleen Turner. But here's my problem with this. And you would think as a Hurricanes fan, I would be outraged. I'm not. I'm fine with this. I think it actually was the best possible scenario. How am I going to get mad at Cam Ward when, again, it was the defense all year? The defense sucked. The defense was the problem with the team. Lance Guidry was the problem with the team. Yet everybody's focusing on the selfish Cam Ward. He only played a half. How dare he? Look at Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter for Colorado. Yeah, and they got their doors blown off by BYU. Cam Ward has to think about his future. Yes, he played because he wanted to set the Division I mark for career touchdown passes. You want to call that selfish? That's fine. Again, I have no problem with it, especially when you consider the fact, again, something else people in the media don't seem to do. He set the record early in the game. Why didn't he pull himself out at that point? He went on to throw 3 TD passes. He went 12 and 19 for 190 yards with 3 TD passes. He only needed 1 to set the record. He got 3 because he played the entire half. He had at least some sense of obligation. He played the entire half and he didn't have to. And everybody's twisting and turning it and saying, well, why not play the whole game? Because who gives a rip fuck? It was the Pop-Tarts Bowl. I give him credit for what he did. Kudos to Cam Ward. He did this perfectly. He played this perfectly. Now could be for a short period of time, but he is currently the Division I all-time leader with 158 career touchdown passes, surpassing Case Keenum. Now, why do I say could be for a short period of time? And this could be an argument. as to why he should have played the whole game for himself. He needed to pad that record. Even though he did get a couple extra beyond what he needed, because now Oregon's Dillon Gabriel is within striking distance. So if you want to make that argument as to why Cam Ward should have played the whole game, I'll buy that more than I will. He owed it to anybody. And again, he could have pulled himself from the game right after that first touchdown. But he played the first half. And they had a 10-point lead in the second half, and they still blew it because their defense sucked. So don't blame Cam Ward for any of this. Shame on anybody out there, including the Conquistador, for bagging on Cam Ward in this situation. Bunch of Miami haters out there. You can go to hell. Seriously. The kid did nothing wrong. Absolutely nothing wrong. Now, I'll calm down. And now we'll run through real quick some of the bowl games over the past week. Thursday, December the 26th, got to point out the game above Sports Bowl. 6 overtimes, which I do believe is a new record for a bowl game. 6 overtimes, Toledo beats Pittsburgh 48-46. Now we'll have a couple things at the end of the show, 1 or 2 things that might relate back to college football. Texas Tech and Arkansas in the Liberty Bowl. Arkansas won 39-26, but not without some controversy. Again, stick around for the end of the show. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. You know what that means. Armed Forces Bowl, also Friday, December the 27th. Navy. Again, this just tells me Brett Venables cannot coach a big-time program. Oklahoma. Yes, they beat Alabama, and we'll get to Alabama in a few minutes. Because even though we're taping on the 31st, one bowl game is already finished. So Oklahoma's claim to fame this year is that they beat Alabama. Right now, that's not looking all that impressive. And good for Navy. And here's my hope. Because Army also won their bowl game. They won the Independence Bowl on the 28th against Louisiana Tech. I'm hoping, and they both deserve it. They sure as hell deserve it more than Miami. And I'm a Miami fan. I hope Army and Navy both end up in the AP Top 25 at the end of the year. Because Navy knocks off Oklahoma in the Armed Forces Bowl 21-20. Kudos for Army and Navy both. Those teams have both been solid all year. And I believe in the end they're both top 25 teams here to end this season. Las Vegas Bowl. Ooh, excuse me. Did a little bit of an alfalfa there. Las Vegas Bowl on Friday the 27th of December. 2 teams that had much higher hopes. Sorry, Las Vegas Bowl. But I'm a little surprised at the outcome. USC knocks off Texas A&M 35-31. So maybe Lincoln Riley saves a little bit of face going into next year. But believe me, his seat next year is going to be hot. As Buster Poindexter once sang, hot, hot, hot. Now, this particular run of bowl games starting Friday night, the 27th, going all the way through the 28th. And we can even go back to the Pop-Tarts Bowl and include that. Well, that's part of this. Sorry. That's the 28th. Why did I decide all of a sudden in my picks that the ACC was a powerhouse? What led me to believe, after seeing SMU and Syracuse, not Syracuse, Clemson. Sorry, Syracuse was the one ACC team that actually showed up and played well in their bowl game. They won on Friday the 27th as they beat Washington State 52-35. But I picked on Saturday, December the 28th. All right, again, what was I thinking? Thinking the ACC was so great. I picked 4 ACC teams on the 28th to win their bowl games. I picked North Carolina to beat Connecticut. I picked Boston College to beat Nebraska. I picked Miami, obviously, to beat Iowa State. I picked North Carolina State to beat East Carolina. And guess what? 0-4. 0-4. Why did I do that to myself? Why did I do that to you people who should be relying on me for accurate, insightful, well thought out, well researched picks? North Carolina loses to UConn in the Fenway Bowl 27-14. Boston College loses in the Pinstripe Bowl to Nebraska 20-15. Miami, of course, loses to Iowa State 42-41 in the Pop-Tarts Bowl. And North Carolina State loses in the Military Bowl 26-21 to East Carolina. Great job, Kev. Great job. We also, of course, on that day, December the 28th, talked about Army winning the Independence Bowl. And on the Alamo Bowl, BYU obliterating Colorado. So really, based on potential and where some of these players are going to be drafted in the NFL, Miami and Colorado could be the 2 most disappointing teams of the year. Now, I know we mentioned USC and Texas A&M also. You can throw them in there as well. Now, that pretty much catches us up. I'm not going to go through every bowl, but today, Tuesday, December the 31st, we've got 3 bowl games actually being played right now as we record this episode. Back and forth in the Sun Bowl, but Louisville has taken advantage against Washington. South Carolina, Illinois in a tight one in the Citrus Bowl. LSU starting to pull away from Baylor in the Texas Bowl. But the one bowl that's done already, and this is a statement. This is a statement to all you whiny bitches out there who said, oh, they didn't get it right. How could you not put Alabama in the final 12 in the playoffs? You know why? Because they suck. They're not that good. In the ReliaQuest Bowl earlier today, December the 31st, Michigan. Keep in mind, Alabama was a double-digit favorite in this game. Michigan beats Alabama 19-13. 4 losses this year for Alabama. And now, let's hear it. High tide, high tide, high tide. You don't deserve roll tide. You get the geek in the commercial going, high tide, high tide. First year for Kalen DeBoer. Way to go, bud. Way to go. Not the most abysmal season ever at 9-4, but still. This is not what Alabama fans want or expect. Kalen DeBoer had better be a lot better. I would think that if they don't make the playoffs next year, there's going to be a lot of talk about canning his ass because the expectations are sky high in Tuscaloosa. This is not the season that Kalen DeBoer needed to start his tenure at Alabama with. But more above that, beyond that, what did I tell you guys a couple weeks ago? I told you that the CFP committee got it right. I actually agreed with them. They got it right. Keeping Alabama with 3 losses out. Now, what's your argument? Now, all you big-brained idiots in the media, what's your argument now, you deep thinkers? After the first round of the playoff, oh, Indiana didn't deserve to be in there. SMU didn't deserve to be in there. Now, what's your argument gonna be? What is it gonna be now? Iowa State should have been in? What? You have no argument. They got it right. Just admit that they got it right. Alabama was not one of the top 12 teams in the country. End of story. Oh, gotta run everything. Gotta run everything. Your Uncle Dave and I have gotta run everything in sports. Ugh. Congratulations to Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson. Why would I congratulate Deshaun Watson for anything other than being a complete and total pervo jackass? I apologize. Congratulations to Deshaun Jackson. Of course, most well known for his time as a star wide receiver with the Philadelphia Eagles. Deshaun Jackson becomes the latest former player to take over a college football program. He will take over as the new head coach of Delaware State. Now, by all accounts, this is a dream job for him. He always wanted to be in charge of the football program at an HBCU. Now, I will say this. Deshaun Jackson, not Deshaun Watson, but I guess you could say this about Deshaun Watson too, but Deshaun Jackson never struck me as the most mature or reliable person on the face of the earth. He was one of those diva wide receivers. I just wonder how that attitude will translate to being a head coach. Now, we all know Deion Sanders is a diva. So far, it's working okay. Not as great as the media would lead you to believe, but okay. I just wonder about some of these players, like Teddy Bridgewater. That makes sense to me. Teddy Bridgewater struck me as a leader of men, not an arrogant showboat. Deion Sanders, Deshaun Jackson, again, time will tell. And I'll just point out with Deion Sanders, great, he's going to have 2 of the top 5 picks, 2 of his kids from his team, top 5 picks in the NFL draft, and that's great. It doesn't even look like at the end of the year in the final AP poll, his team will be in the top 25. Again, one of the more disappointing teams in college football. All right, we're wrapping up bowl season. 7 bowls to pick for you here this week. What we used to call back in the day our Cristobal picks. As I mentioned with the pro picks, 7 of our 8 panelists have their selections in. Now, we still are going to have 3 more, technically, bowl games. The 3 remaining college football playoff games. After this, what we do right now. So keep that in mind. As I said, quick turnaround. This episode, we're taping December 31st. It will hit early morning, January 1st. Picks will all be posted on Facebook by 1 o'clock on January the 1st, because 3 of these games we're picking happen on New Year's Day. And those are the 3 bowls that are part of the college football playoff system. First up, the Peach Bowl. Peachy, the Peach Bowl. Again, these are AP rankings. As much as I was sticking up for the CFP a few minutes ago, I prefer the AP rankings. So the Peach Bowl, number 4, Texas, against number 10, Arizona State. And I love Arizona State. I do. I love the fact that they jump into the Big 12 and take over and win the whole damn thing. Scatterboo. Love his arrogance. Love his ego. Love him as a running back. He is a tank. And I do have hesitation about Texas and Steve Sarkisian and Quentin Ewers. Quentin Ewers along with Carson Beck of Georgia. We'll get to him in a minute. For big-time quarterbacks in big-time programs, they make too many mistakes. But, all that being said, I will be rooting for Arizona State in this game. But I'm picking Texas. The talent discrepancy probably too much for Arizona State to overcome. Of the 7 picks we've got in, I have 6 with me. The lone dissenting voice is the conquistador. Your Uncle Dave takes Arizona State in the upset. Now keep in mind, Texas is favored by almost 2 touchdowns. At least they were when I put this together. Second playoff game on New Year's Day is the Rose Bowl, the granddaddy of them all. And we've got 2 Big Ten teams facing off against each other. Number 6, Ohio State against number 1, Oregon. The thing that shocks me is the line when I put this together. Ohio State favored by 2.5. Really? Really? I guess because it was a close game earlier this year when the two played in Oregon. That's the logic. Now we're at a neutral site, so I don't care. I don't give a damn. Oregon's the better team. I'm taking Oregon, so is Dave, Sam, Nick, and Doug. But the Buckeyes, for Bill and for Aaron. And then finally, tomorrow night, January the 1st, the Sugar Bowl. Number 3, Notre Dame against number 2, Georgia. Carson Beck, as I mentioned, starting quarterback for most of the year for Georgia. Out, injured, done for the playoffs. And I think that's a blessing for Georgia because I mentioned it about Quinn Ewers in Texas. Carson Beck had a tendency to make big mistakes. Kirby Smart has had time to get his backup ready to go. This is bias. This is all bias. I'm telling you. All the panel here biased. They're all Notre Dame fanatics. Makes me want to puke. 7 of the 8 panelists in. 6 picks for Notre Dame. Guess who's the one person taking Georgia? That's right. This guy. Me. I'm taking the Bulldogs. Notre Dame's not this good, people. They're not. Look at who they've beaten. Look at who they... Georgia had the toughest schedule in the country. Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois. Who else did they beat? I'm sorry, IU. IU's probably their toughest game. Seriously. You can't look at these teams where they were ranked when Notre Dame played them. Texas A&M does not look like a big win right now. It does not. Everybody was crowing about that at the start of the season. Oh, look, we opened with a beatdown on Texas A&M. Yeah, Texas A&M's not that good. They're not going to be in the top 25 at the end of the year. Give me Georgia. And I say it with a shit-eating grin on my face. Give me Georgia. Everybody else on the panel can have Notre Dame. Riley Leonard. Come on. Come on. Georgia's backup quarterback has got to be better than Riley fucking Leonard. Notre Dame's lost a key piece of their defensive line. Come on. Go Dogs. All right, the rest of the bowl games. Thursday, January the 2nd, the Gator Bowl. Duke versus number 16, Mississippi. Now, Mississippi's going to be the team. It's going to go, oh, we should have been in the college football playoffs. They're going to destroy Duke. Spread, when I put this together, 17 points. Mississippi, Ole Miss, favored by 17. In the panel, all 7 of us right now taking Ole Miss. I do believe Duke's quarterback, who I liked, watched him play against my Miami Hurricanes. I was impressed with him, but I don't think he's playing in this game. I think he's another transfer portal casualty. So Mississippi for everybody. Friday, January the 3rd, the First Responder Bowl. Battle of Texas. No, not Texas and Texas A&M or Texas Tech. It is North Texas versus Texas State. Another huge spread here, almost 2 touchdowns in favor of Texas State. And that's where 6 of our 7 panelists are going, except Doug. Doug going with North Texas. Then the Duke's Mayo Bowl on Friday, January the 3rd. Minnesota versus Virginia Tech. Now, normally, I hate Minnesota. I can't trust them. I never have trusted them, but they have a significant bowl game winning streak going right now. And Virginia Tech lost a lot of good players to the transfer portal. So unfortunately, I have to go with Minnesota. Dave agrees with me. So does Sam. So does Bill. Nick and Aaron as well. Doug again. The lone dissenting voice taking Virginia Tech. All right, and that leaves us with one official bowl game left. Like I said, there will still be 3 college football playoff games / bowls left. Are they considered bowls? Saturday, January the 4th, the Bahamas Bowl. Buffalo taking on Liberty. Again, Liberty, I believe, having a lot of transfer portal issues. These are things you have to look at now when you're making these picks. So I'm taking Buffalo. So is Dave, Nick, Doug, and Aaron. Sam and Bill taking Liberty. So there you go. I think I covered everything. I think I got all the picks. Did a nice recap of the last week of bowl games. And again, still apologizing for the fact that my voice is still not 100%. Stubborn man that I am. Maybe in 2025 I will grow a few brain cells and go see a doctor. I've had this for over a month. It's driving me nuts. The thing is, it used to be a lot worse. And it got better except for the voice. All right, so we're going to take a break from NASCAR and racing this week. Not really a lot to discuss anyway. So let's move on to baseball. Little bit of news on the hot stove. One really, really significant signing, and then one that, of course, pisses me off beyond all belief. Real quick recap here. I don't want to bore you with just rattling off the transaction wire. But these are the significant signings in baseball of the past week. Detroit Tigers signed Gleyber Torres for 1 year and $15 million. So Gleyber Torres, his time with the Yankees is done. Josh Bell, really undervalued utility man. Starter when you need him, can come off the bench. Goes back to the team he used to play for, the Washington Nationals, on a 1 year, $6 million deal. Then the big signing of the week, the Arizona Diamondbacks. Wow, have they got a lot of pitching. You wonder if they're going to be dealing some of this pitching that they've got. Because now they signed the big arm that was out there on the market. Yes, Arizona got Corbin Burnes. 6 years, $210 million. Of course, if you can do basic math, that averages out to $35 million a year. Now, to me, that's not crazy. It's still a lot to pay for a starting pitcher. But I think initially a lot of people thought he'd be closer to $300 million. Probably an 8-year deal. Again, a lot closer to $300 million. 6 years, $210, not terrible. Now $35 million a year, again, that's a lot. And of course, my cheap-ass Cubs, nowhere to be seen or heard from. I knew when they were saying, oh, the Cubs could be players for Corbin Burnes because of his past history with Craig Counsell. Bullshit. The Ricketts family is playing it cheap now. They are turning into the worst owners of any big market team out there. They cry poverty. They're focused on the entertainment district. They don't care about the product they put on the field. Oh, and by the way, they made a deal this past week. Another one of these can't-miss prospects, Matt Mervis. They trade him to the Miami Marlins for utility infielder Vidal Brujan. But why am I mad about it? Because I could care two rip shits about Matt Mervis. He never looked that good to me. He's like David Bodie. Why do I get mad about this? Because just like with Cody Bellinger, the front office, I'm looking at you, Jed Hoyer. I'm looking at you, Carter Hawkins. You guys are more than willing to cry poverty along with Ricketts. Yet every time you want to make a move, the other team can say, well, why don't you give us some money too while you're at it? Give us some cash. Give us some cash. So the Cubs had to pony up $5 million in the Cody Bellinger deal to the Yankees, just like they paid almost the entire salary a few years back for Anthony Rizzo when they traded him. Now they have to give them, it's not the amount has not been disclosed. But the Cubs had to give the Marlins money to take Matt Mervis off their hands? Really? The Cubs had to cut a check to Miami for Matt Mervis? Come on. What the fuck are we doing? What the fuck are the Cubs doing? And everybody's going, oh, look at Kyle Tucker. Look, it's a smoke and mirrors game. Yeah, they're sitting there with the right hand going, ooh, look at our bright, shiny new toy, Kyle Tucker. And then they're just dumping players and writing checks with the other hand, hoping we don't see it. Because they act like their fans are idiots. All they do is go in the bleachers and get drunk. No, we're not all like that. Some of us are very intelligent and realize you are not running this team well right now. And by the way, the more I think about the Kyle Tucker deal, the more pissed off I get. Because now we've got a hole at third base after trading Isaac Paredes to the Astros. And you got Tucker for 1 year. 1 year. Do you really think the Cubs are going to break down if he has a good year? If he has a good year, do you really think the Cubs are going to break down and give this kid a 10-year deal for $400 million? Ha! You know what's more than likely? They flip him at the trade deadline. At least they haven't traded my man, Nico Horner, yet. And I still think that would be a stupid, terrible mistake. But you still got to get a third baseman. You still need bullpen help. You still need a closer. What are you doing? We can't go over the luxury tax threshold again because they were so stupid last year. They just nudged enough over it. Just nudged over it enough. Where they had to pay a little bit of a penalty, but now, you can't do it again, otherwise the tax penalty will increase. I mean, who literally is running this team? Jed Hoyer, go away. Go away. I cannot believe you are a trusted confidant of Theo Epstein. I can't believe it. You have none of the savvy and acumen that Theo Epstein had. None. Oh, and then finally, let's really cap off our baseball talk on a positive note, shall we? The LA Dodgers are bringing back Teoscar Hernandez. Did you hear this, kids? One of their big-time pieces from their 2024 championship team is coming back. They signed him to a 3-year, $66 million deal. Oh, and guess what? $23.5 million deferred. Rob Manfred, you do have a clause as commissioner. It is called Best Interests of Baseball. You need to stop the deferred money with the Dodgers, and you need to stop it now. It's ridiculous. It's pathetic. You are going to destroy any interest in the game. Because I sure as hell right now, I'm not watching a single game in 2025. Because my team's pathetic. I know Dave's the same way. His team's pathetic. I don't care about the Yankees, the Mets, and the Dodgers. That interests me zero. Nada. Zilch. I don't care about the New York and the LA teams. And you've effectively killed off interest in baseball in every other market. Congratulations for being the worst baseball commissioner ever. All right, let's move on to the NBA. While I still have a voice. I love my Orlando Magic so much. I love them, love them, love them. They are going through arguably one of the worst stretches any team has ever gone through when it comes to injuries. We've documented Paolo Banchero, number 1 player, out with an oblique tear. Number 2 player, Franz Wagner, out, oblique tear. Third best player, Moritz Wagner, out for the year with a torn up knee. And now their fourth best player, Jalen Suggs, now has sprained his wrist, out indefinitely. How is it possible that this team is still 20-14 and somehow able to win games? You know why? Unlike the Bears, unlike the Cubs, unlike the White Sox, they have smart management and a smart ownership group and a great coach. Next man up. It's great to see. So everybody, all the pundits, all the geniuses, oh, the Knicks, oh, the Cavaliers, oh, the Celtics. Keep ignoring the Magic. You keep ignoring the Magic. But we get Boncaro back soon. We'll get Franz Wagner back in a month and a half. And you watch out. This Magic team will be tough to deal with in the East playoffs. Now, a double dose of bad news for the Mavericks. Luka Doncic, calf issue will keep him out for at least a month. All but eliminating him, because of the new NBA rules, from being eligible for postseason awards. And I think Adam Silver, I'm not a big fan of his, but he's a hell of a lot smarter than Rob Manfred, because at least he's trying. The rules they put in to say you've got to play a certain number of games. Otherwise, you are not eligible. I love it. I love it. And stick around till the end of the show, which isn't that far away, for a little bit more on that. But Luka Doncic will be out at least a month with the calf issue. And then, on top of it, this kind of sort of is blowing my mind here. He is the latest in a string of high-profile athletes to be burglarized while away from home. Now, supposedly, there is a South American gang or group behind this. But here's my question. Now, I'm not going to rip on the athletes. I know they've got a ton of money. And if they choose to, they could hire security or upgrade their security system. That's personal choice. But our great and glorious FBI says they know the group that's doing this, highly coordinated, highly intelligent. Well, they must be, because they're fooling you. How has the FBI not caught these guys yet? How? They've hit who now? Doncic. They've also hit Pat Mahomes. They've hit Travis Kelce, among others. How have you guys been able to discern the group involved here? But you can't stop them. Doesn't give me a lot of faith in law enforcement. I appreciate the police. I'm talking about the FBI, the government, the federal government. And it should shock no one that they're inept. Then finally, in the NBA, the outpouring of sympathy for Mike Brown kind of startles me a little bit. The Sacramento Kings fired head coach Mike Brown. Didn't like what they were seeing, didn't like the direction the team was going in. And all of a sudden, all these coaches, oh, solidarity. How dare you fire one of us? That was not warranted. That wasn't called for. What has Mike Brown ever done? Last time I checked, he's never won a title. He's a retread. And that's the worst type of coach you can have, is a retread. Because more often than not, retreads are just going to wallow in mediocrity. Mike Brown is never going to win a title for anybody. Yet these teams keep going back to the well and hiring him and expecting more than mediocrity. Guess what? Shocking. You're not going to get it. So spare me all the crocodile tears for Mike Brown, as he's the latest NBA coach to get canned. We'll jump over to the NHL real quick, just as a tribute to the conquistador. We will discuss briefly the Chicago Blackhawks. Now, they played today, so these numbers are before today's game. They could still be playing, I'm not sure. But as of this morning, the Blackhawks were 23-2. That's 26 points. And again, as of this morning, December the 31st, worst team in the NHL. Ouch. Sorry, Dave. Now let's talk some TV numbers here. Hey, our Uncle Dave and I are always pointing out the fact that not every TV show on the weekend edition, by the way, your Saturday morning hangover cure coming up this Saturday morning, January the 4th, 2025, the first weekend edition of 2025. We'll talk some Squid Game. We'll talk some Yacht Rock. I will have my review of Hellboy, The Crooked Man, under the radar movie release. Very cool movie. And of course, we will have our usual assortment of dumbasses of the week. And we have a lot of DC movie news to pass along as well. But, tying it all together, I'm sure you're going to see numbers about Squid Game. Oh my God, Squid Game 2 sets all type of records. Everything's setting records. Movies setting records. TV shows setting records. Sports viewership setting records. Not everything can set a goddamn record. It's not possible. People are lying to us. They are fudging the numbers. It's not possible. Oh, and conveniently, Netflix was able to tell us how many people watched the NFL games on Christmas Day, as they decide in 2025 to no longer report their viewing numbers. Oh, and by the way, I'm sure their numbers on January the 6th for Raw will be astronomical and record-setting. Oh, God. But anyway, Netflix says, now this is for unique viewership overall for the whole day. I believe roughly 25 million give or take, watched each game. But then you had people jumping in just to watch Beyonce, halftime of the second game. I believe that was the second game, right? I think it was. Yeah, because Lamar Jackson said he was going to cut out on the halftime meeting with the team to watch, which I don't think he did. But overall, unique viewership, Netflix is saying 65 million unique viewers tuned in at some point throughout the day to watch a minute or two at least of the games. But then you sit there and you go, oh, then the poor NBA must have suffered because they used to have Christmas Day all to themselves, and now what's happened? Well, the NBA said they did great. So again, everybody's setting records. Believe it or not, the NBA, I think they had 5 games on Christmas Day this year. Because I know they had an hour before the kickoff of the first game, and then they were making a big deal about the game after the NFL wrapped up. I think that was the Lakers-Warriors. So the NBA claims, I call bullshit on this. I call absolute abject bullshit on this. The NBA claims their Christmas viewership was up 84% from 2023. Now they're saying that it's because all the games. This is what I've heard. They're saying it's because all the games this year were available on ABC. Whereas I believe last year in 2023, a lot of games were relegated to just cable networks, whether that was ESPN or TNT. That's what they're saying is causing a big part of the uptick. And I still say bullshit. Bullshit. Not everything, every second, every minute of every day now can be a record. We are being lied to. So now all of a sudden the NBA, which we heard less than a month ago, was in dire straits in terms of their TV ratings. Now saying, oh yeah, we're up now this year. Yeah, we're doing great. We're up now. Give me a fucking break. Break me off a piece of that Kit Kat bar because I'm being lied to. Anyway, I'm sure there will be much more when it comes to this kind of bull crap to discuss when we get into the playoffs in the NFL and, of course, into other sports in 2025. All right, let's talk about golf for a few minutes here, and specifically bizarre injuries that have happened to 2 of the top golfers in the world as we get ready to start the 2025 season. And no, we're not going to talk about Tiger Woods' stupid video game golf. I'm not watching it. It's idiotic. And all you Tiger Woods sycophants can watch it. The golfers that actually still matter. Scottie Scheffler, by far the number 1 golfer in the world, had an incident here recently. Broken glass, cut up his hand. By all accounts, had to actually have surgery I don't know if I'd call it surgery. I mean, surgery to me means that you cut tendons and ligaments. That's not the case here. There were bits of glass embedded in the cut. That's what they're calling surgery, is they had to get the glass out before they stitched it up. That's a procedure. That's not surgery. Because he's supposed to be ready to go in about a month. Surgery would tell me, again, you've cut tendons and muscle, and you're going to be out an extended period of time. He cut his hand, and because they had to get pieces of glass out of the cut, it's now surgery. Anyway, Scotty Scheffler will miss the first tournament, one tournament, to start off the 2025 season. So everything is okay. One tournament, not a big deal. Look how many tournaments throughout the years, when he was healthy, Tiger Woods would skip. Even when he wasn't hurt. And then Victor Hovland, another big name on the tour, broke his toe on a bed frame. No word yet on how long he's going to be out. This is life, kids. You can't wrap yourself up in bubble wrap. Shit happens. As we just found out here with Scotty Scheffler and Victor Hovland. And there's nothing you can do about it. Now, comparing these two to an idiot like Chase Elliott. If you remember, what was it, last year, early last year, 2023. What was he, snowmobiling or snowboarding? When athletes do crazy stuff outside of their basic everyday activities, that's when, as a fan, as a sponsor, as an owner, you get pissed off. Scotty Scheffler breaking a glass, or Victor Hovland, breaking his toe on a bed frame, that's just life. It's not reckless. There's nothing else they can do. Things are going to happen. So, of course, we hope both. We wish both a speedy recovery. All right, college basketball. 6 former Florida State players are suing head coach Leonard Hamilton, saying they were each promised $250,000 in NIL money, and they were never paid. Welcome to the wild, wild West. The wonderful, wonderful world, note sarcasm, of NIL. And that's going to take us to another Florida team. The Miami Hurricanes. Currently at 4-8 as the kids are off for winter break. Longtime coach Jim Larrañaga steps down immediately. His assistant Bill Courtney will take over this year on an interim basis. But why is Jim Larrañaga, one of the better head coaches in college basketball, stepping down? Because he doesn't want to deal with the new rules and the current landscape. NIL, paying the players. Whereas Bill Belichick is jumping in and embracing it we've now seen Nick Saban walk away and Jim Larrañaga walk away because they don't want to deal with it. It's a shame. Jim Larrañaga took this program to their first ever Final Four. But it's tragic that when you change the rules this drastically, legends walk away. And they say, nope, this isn't for me. This is not for me. And then, thank God for this that I just saw today. The Dartmouth men's basketball team, remember we talked about them a couple months ago, a few months back, how they wanted to unionize. Well, they have now withdrawn their attempt to unionize. Get this, you know why? Because they're scared to death now that they won't get a favorable ruling from the National Labor Relations Board and the government, because now it's Republican controlled. Ah! You mean common sense has taken over? That's what you mean? Common sense has taken over. Not Republicans, common sense. So does this mean that when Democrats 4 years or 8 years down the road regain control, then we'll have another team try to unionize because, now it's favorable. The atmosphere is favorable for us. That's pathetic. If you believe in something, see it through. Don't be all namby-pamby and go, well, I have to wait for a political party that will like us to get in power. Then your cause isn't worth it. If you're not strong enough in your convictions to push it through, no matter who, regardless of who is in power, then you have no backbone and spine, and your cause is weak. All right, you know who wasn't weak? Who was one of the greatest broadcasters of all time? As we move on to moments of silence, Greg Gumbel. Greg Gumbel, very, very hard to find anybody who didn't like Greg Gumbel. Greg Gumbel primarily worked for CBS Sports over a variety of different sports, most notably probably college basketball and the NFL. Greg Gumbel passes away. We will all miss Greg Gumbel because it's very rare in this day and age to find professionalism in sports media, and he was one of the few. He was a true professional, unlike his brother, his younger brother, Bryant. Thoughts and prayers to the CBS Sports community, the family of Greg Gumbel. Paul Bamba. I still haven't seen the details on this. I don't know what's going on, if there's a cover-up. But Paul Bamba dies at 35 years old. He had just won in late December. I believe the 21st. He had just won a WBA championship. I can't remember if it was cruiserweight, featherweight. But he had just won the title and then dies at 35. So are we not being told about I hate to look at the negative, like I never look at the negative, but are there drugs involved? Was there brain trauma that happened in this last fight that led to his death? I would like to know more about this. And then finally, we're going to have a moment of silence that is going to cross over. We'll have it here on the sports edition and then on the weekend edition. And that is Charles Dolan. For our purposes here on the sports edition, Charles Dolan used to be, passed it down to his son, James Dolan. But Charles Dolan used to be controlling owner of the New York Knicks and the New York Rangers, and I believe Madison Square Garden. So thoughts and prayers go out to the Dolan family, and of course, to the family and friends of Paul Bamba. And so that means we inevitably have to pivot here as we wrap up Sports Frenzy 2.0 for this week. 4 dumbasses. 4 nominees for the Red Foreman Dumbass of the Week. Got some good ones. Got some good ones for you. Now, of course, since your Uncle Dave's not here, it's up to you. Drop us a comment on our Spotify page. Drop us a comment on our Facebook page. You tell me, which of these 4 do you think is the one true Red Foreman Dumbass of the Week? Now, we did foreshadow a couple of these. When it comes to the NBA, you know I'm not a fan of these players and their load management. For the money they get paid, they should play every damn game possible. I like Jimmy Butler. I really do. But he is more an example of the modern athlete in a bad way. It overshadows the positives, the accomplishments, the achievements. He might get in the Hall of Fame someday, but that will not take away from the fact that he has jumped around from team to team to team and never been 100% reliable for any team he's played for. Case in point, we talked here recently about how he wanted to, without asking for it, but indications were he wanted a trade out of Miami. Now the Miami front office has since come out and said that's not happening. So now as Jimmy Butler gets ready to get back in the lineup, he missed games on December the 26th, December the 28th, and December the 29th. Why? Gotta love the NBA. Again, note sarcasm. He missed 3 games for, quote, competition reconditioning. Competition reconditioning. For the love of Christ. Seriously? Competition reconditioning. I'm not quite ready to play yet. I'm not back in game shape yet. I have never heard it called competition reconditioning. If you're not ready, they just keep you on the injured list. You don't give it a stupid, silly, woke label like this. So I don't know who's to blame. Is it Jimmy Butler? Is it the NBA? Is it the Heat? But we've gone now from load management to competition reconditioning. Another stupid, dumb fuck label for athletes that just don't want to earn their money but still want to get paid. So somebody here, we got to blame somebody. Somebody's a dumbass. Justin Jefferson. Hard to argue he's not one of the best receivers in the NFL. Do I like him? He's okay. He's okay. I just saw his latest Little Caesars commercial, and I wasn't overly impressed. Get out my house! Could we speak in full sentences, Justin? Please? But that is not why he is a nominee for the Red Foreman Dumbass of the Week. No, he's into the bling. Okay, he loves his bling. He's got a grill, which again, I will never understand any of this. Never understand any of it. You don't need 15 cars. You don't need 12 houses. You don't need 14 bathrooms. You don't need a diamond grill for your face. And do you really need $1 million gold and diamond necklace that you wear during games? Oh, I'm sorry. Camera caught Justin Jefferson here over the past weekend trying to wear his $1 million, again, $1 million necklace. And then he realized either he couldn't put it on or he wasn't allowed to wear it. So what does he do as he goes back to the huddle? He stuffs it in his jock strap. No, I am not kidding. Go look on Google and find the video. Justin Jefferson, $1 million necklace, casually shoves it in his pants, in his jock strap during a game. Sorry, that's a dumbass move. On multiple levels. Multiple levels. If you're going to have $1 million necklace, maybe he felt like he couldn't keep it at home because of the recent string of burglaries targeting professional athletes. That's what it is. Oh, I'm sorry, Justin. No, I'm not. You're still a dumbass. Arkansas offensive lineman Fernando Carmona. This is another one I alluded to earlier when we were talking about one of the bowl games. Arkansas and Texas Tech. Fernando Carmona, at the end of a play in this bowl game, of course this was the Liberty Bowl, decided to step on the ankle of Texas Tech's C.J. Baskerville. Not only step on it, but put all his weight on it for everybody to see. Cameras included. Now, there were some people that overreacted a little bit. Yes, I'm talking about you, Craig Carton. Craig Carton screaming and yelling about the kid should be banned for life from football and that he broke Baskerville's ankle, which is not true. So he should apologize for false reporting. And I do like Craig Carton, but he goes way overboard. And then he never apologizes. for basically lying. As heinous and as awful as what Fernando Carmona did, and he's a dumbass this week for doing it, I have not seen any report that said he broke Baskerville's ankle, but it was still an awful, terrible, dirty move. Then finally, we're going to talk about chess. Isn't that a sport? Isn't it kind of sort of a sport? Well, we're going to treat it like one. Chess Grandmaster Magnus Carlsen quit the recent World Rapid and Blitz Championships. Why? Because there is a dress code. Okay. I can see it. There are certain walks of life that have dress codes. Chess has always been a little more prestigious than other sports. There's a dress code. So Magnus Carlsen ignored the dress code and showed up to the World Rapid and Blitz Championship in jeans, taking Casual Friday to a whole new level. Now, of course, again, there's a dress code. They tell you up front what you're allowed to wear. And I know everybody wants to be casual now. Everybody wants to work from home. Everybody wants to wear jeans. Hell, so do I. Absolutely. If I go through life without ever wearing a tie again, I'll be ecstatic. Let alone slacks and dress shoes. But sometimes you have to adhere to the rules and the policies of either the place you're visiting or the business you're working at. And Magnus Carlsen said, no, I want to wear jeans. Then he got a fine, and they told him, go back to your room, go back to the back, change into appropriate attire. He again said no. He walked out, quit the tournament. I'm going to take my rook and my pawn, and I'm going to go home. Now, by all accounts, he was not playing well anyway, but still, what a little fucking baby. Magnus Carlsen, you are a dumbass. So there you go, kids. 4 nominees this week. Chess Grandmaster Magnus Carlsen, Jimmy Butler, the NBA, the Heat, for competition reconditioning, Justin Jefferson for stuffing his $1 million necklace in his crotch, and Arkansas offensive lineman Fernando Carmona for his awful, nasty, dirty play on Texas Tech's C.J. Baskerville. Now these, I will admit, we got different levels here. 4 different levels of dumbassery, ranging from people being petulant, spoiled babies to people trying to out and out hurt their opponent physically. So, where do I go here? My choice. You guys, again, can make your choice. Facebook, Spotify. I'm going to go with Justin Jefferson because, again, I don't understand why you waste all this money on necklaces and bling and grills and then to actually bring it on a football field and shove it down your pants. It's mind-boggling to me, the mentality of the professional star athlete. It's why I do the podcast every week, to point out the contradictory nature of sports. I love it, yet at the same time, so much of it I hate, and I wish it was better. And Justin Jefferson is a perfect melding of those thoughts and ideas. So he's my dumbass of the week. But that's going to do it for me as the voice fades away. We're getting closer and closer here as I finish up to the first game in the next round of the CFP. Penn State, Boise State. Have a full recap for you next week with the return of your Uncle Dave. The Conquistador Dave Height will be back. But until then, don't forget Saturday morning, and hopefully my voice will be back. The weekend edition, your Saturday morning hangover cure. Until then, be safe tonight. Be safe throughout the new year. Have a great start to 2025. As always, every Wednesday night, Thursday morning, Sports Frenzy will be here for you. Also on Saturday morning. Take care, everybody. Love you. We'll talk again soon.